What's going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Profit Picks. Here with my guy Rob Veno. He was also with me on Wednesday. On this show, usually try to be transparent. I mean, we're both pretty transparent all the time, but I try to always come and start the show by reviewing how we either did on the following show or the previous day, this week, however we're going to do it. So for me, I know yesterday I went 1-1, which was pretty annoying. Patrick Williams didn't really play that much and didn't get over his rebound prop, so that was my one loss. And Trey Young continues to rack up those assists, so we'll try to do a little bit better than 1-1 today. How are you, Rob? And how's the NBA been treating you, or how things been treating you? You're betting a lot more than NBA right now, right?
Yeah, the college is real good to me, Ski. 2-0 again last night in college. We're hitting it now. I mean, somewhat of a small sample size, I guess you would say, but we're up to 37-15 right now, 69% for the year. It's been really good. Couple of wins there. And last night the Bucks let me down. I had a Bucks team total last night over 122, and they only made it to 115, so that was not good. But we'll look to hit them here tonight. It's a huge card, and there's so much going on. I mean, if you could, my desk is so full of paperwork, Ski, Super Bowl props, and college basketball, 200 games tomorrow. And it's just crazy. And the NBA trade deadline was a little bit nuts. So we had to sift through some stuff this morning.
Yeah, I mean, let's just real quick before we go through all the games. Big standouts on the trade deadline. I mean, Kyrie over there with Luca. You have KD now on the West Coast with the Suns. Lakers made a couple moves. Who do you think won the trade deadline, or which moves are your favorites?
Well, we're going to find out, right? I think Phoenix kind of depleted their bench in order to have a great starting five. And sometimes a starting five can carry you through. You'd worry about a little bit of foul trouble in the playoffs. But right now, I guess talent-wise, you would say starting five-wise, they're probably, I don't know, Denver's still really good in that regard. But Phoenix made strides. Dallas made strides. I think the Clippers made strides, right? The Clippers picked up two really good shooters, Eric Gordon and Bones Highland, immediate scorers, which helps. And then they also picked up Plumlee for more rebounds. I like what Denver did with the Lakers when they got Thomas Bryant, just to give Jokic a blow. Thomas Bryant's good for some boards. It'll help. They really didn't have a legit center to back him up. So I think there's a lot to get to. Boy, Milwaukee sounded real happy to get Jay Crowder back. So maybe I should be happy for that too, because Milwaukee seemed to think that was their missing piece. Yeah, the Spurs. I mean, how about Toronto, Ski? We thought maybe they would be selling off parts, and instead they go get Jakob Poeltl. They get another center. So I don't know what's going on in Toronto. Maybe they feel that with Brooklyn, pushing out pieces and key pieces, that they have a shot in the playoffs now. Who knows? The Knicks got Josh Hart. I don't want to leave that one out because I thought Josh Hart was a pretty big acquisition for Tom Thibodeau, who loves defensive wings. And they shipped Cam Reddish out of there, which we know that wasn't a match to begin with. And then I'll just close finally by saying, what is it with the Hawks, dude? 3 years they're supposed to be getting rid of John Collins and breaking that up, and it just never gets broken up.
I think nobody wanted him. I feel like people were like, nah, just give me 5 second-round picks instead. Like, I don't know. I want to ask you this, though, Rob, because I know you bet a lot of totals. The Denver team, we talked about Thomas Bryant. I mean, he gives them a backup big, but he's another guy who's not going to play any defense. It's just going to add to more scoring in the game. So do you think Denver is going to be an over team? And also, do you think the Suns, I mean, they traded away a couple of their defenders. Are they going to be able to play defense? Will they turn into an over team?
I marked that on next to my Phoenix depth chart, Ski, that they look more like an over team right now. You just can't unload Mikal Bridges. And from what I heard and read, and obviously I have no insight into ownership meetings or phone calls or anything like that, but I had read that, boy, people came banging at the Nets door for Mikal Bridges, and they just wouldn't part with him. So you can't lose pieces like Phoenix lost and think you're not going to suffer on the defensive end. It looks like I mean, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I guess the Clippers still remain the best defensive team on paper, right? Because they have George and Kawhi, I guess, and Plumlee now to block shots. But most of those teams are over teams. There's no question about it.
All right, yeah, I'm gonna monitor that, but that's how I'm looking at them, and probably even the Mavericks too. But we have a lot of games for today, and for you guys watching, we are live on Twitter, we're live on YouTube. These comments that you see on the screen, the ones that we can see, are on YouTube. So if you have any questions about the game, you want to share any looks that you have about any of the games, let us know, and we'll do our best to help out. Other than that, we'll go in rotation order like we always do. So let's start 555, 556. That looks like New York Knicks versus Philadelphia 76ers. Open Sixers -5. Looking at -6, 6.5 at some shops. Total open 222.5, and we're now looking at 223. Let's flip over to the injury report here. We have Josh Hart, game time decision, seeing if he's going to make his debut, I guess. And Mitchell Robinson out. Embiid, game time decision, per usual. McDaniels out. I feel a lot of different ways about this game, Rob. Maybe I'll just start on this one. I like the under to start. And I'll just say, if you just look at recent performance, I mean, the Knicks are playing at the slowest pace in the league the last 5 games. Sixers also bottom 10 in that same span. And both teams top 10 defending at 3 on the season. So I like that. And these teams just played not too long ago. I think it was 5 days. So I always like to look at, when teams play for the second time within a week, that first meeting went under and they adjust the total for the second meeting down. That pretty much is, telling me the bookmakers are expecting an even lower scoring game this time around. So the system for that one is kind of like 63.1%. And also, this is a division game. You have a Sixers team who's already played a couple unders back to back. I think it's an under game. The Knicks also play tomorrow. Both teams play tomorrow, but road teams on the front end of a back-to-back, they're also 57.6% to the under so far this season. So a lot of things just line up for me to play this one under the 223. And as far as the side, I think the Knicks have been playing really good basketball. And I'll just start with this. For the Sixers, they're coming off a game versus Celtics, which was a game that they probably cared a lot about. And they play the Nets tomorrow. Now, they might look at the Nets a little different now that they've unloaded their pieces. But the one thing that, they still will probably want to take to the Nets is they still have Ben Simmons over there. So I still think they care about that game. And so I look at this as kind of a sandwich spot. I know the Knicks have been the better offensive team the last 5 games. They've been the better rebounding team. And if you just look at the games they've been playing, last 8, they've covered a 6.5 number in 7 of them. So I just think, they can keep this one respectable. If I have to, back it up with the database, I can do something similar to the one I use for the total, and we'll go road dogs with the rest advantage after winning the previous matchup as a dog. And it's also looking at when the previous matchup was within a week. You can go. This one goes all the way back to 1996, and it has them as 21-12 against the spread, 63.6%. So I like the Knicks side here. Knicks are also 18-9 against the spread on the road so far this season. So give me the Knicks plus the points, and also give me the under in the game. What do you think about it?
Well, I could support a lot of what you're saying here, Ski. I'm writing some numbers down as I look. But here's what I had in my notes this morning. The Sixers haven't really been playing great defense. 52% from the field or better allowed by the Sixers in 5 of the last 7 games. However, one of those 7 was, as you mentioned, against the Knicks. And against the Knicks, they held them to 43%. It's one of the 2 games in the last 7 where they played really good defense. These teams have played 3 times this year. 2 of them have gone under. I think the Christmas Day one was the one that went over, 119, 112 as I look right here. Otherwise, they're 2-1 to the under, at least where this number is concerned. I also think that as you were talking, my screen went red and pushed Philly up to 6.5, which probably means people realize Joel's going to play now. I think we see Joel on the injury report every single day with the foot injury, and he ends up playing. But this is, as you mentioned, part of a back-to-back, so it probably was in question for a lot of people. But when I see the screen flash like that with Philly getting bumped up, it seems to me that somebody believes he's going to play here. Total may go up because of that. It's at 223 now. So again, if you like Knicks and under, I would almost suggest wait it out a little bit and see if these numbers push any higher. If Embiid comes in, we know how these numbers run when a star player is announced into a game. I always like to fade Philadelphia, which would go to your point about liking Knicks, when there's a 4 on the other side that can cause trouble. Philly just can't defend 4s. Been saying it for like 3 years, and they went out and got PJ Tucker, and they still can't defend 4s. It's why they'll never get out of the East. They're never really a threat in the East because they can't defend Tatum. They can't defend Giannis. And thankfully for them, Durant's out of there because they couldn't defend Durant either. But Julius Randle has had big games against this team this year. Julius Randle, another 4 that could cause difficulty. So my first inclination was to take the Knicks with the points. I just thought that the matchup suited them well. They did just beat this team by 11 points, like you said, a couple of days back. And I think that we talk a lot about at this time of year, Ski, when the trade deadline passes, rejuvenated locker rooms. And not that Josh Hart is the biggest name involved in these trade talks, but especially the head coach, Tom Thibodeau, I think is going to love the fact that he has Josh Hart to start at the 2 guard now, defense and offense. So I think that'll be good.
Because they used to play together, right? Villanova.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. So it'll be a little bit of chemistry, and I'm sure, he'll be happy to have his guy back over there. And I agree with you. So we line up on the side. I don't think you're quite there with me yet on the total, or maybe you are. You're just waiting on the Embiid news to be for sure. But I'm going with the Knicks plus the points, and I'm going with the under in that game. And as always, like I mentioned, if you guys have questions, shoot them to us in the chat, and we'll do our best to get to those games or those questions. Next game up, 557, 558, San Antonio and Detroit. It opened Pistons -3. They're now up to -5. Total open 235, and it is still sitting. It's kind of all over the place. I see it 234.5 at Bet Online, and it's all the way between 236 at Heritage. So make sure you line shop depending on what you like. Let's take a look at the injury report for the Pistons. Wiseman, game time decision. Bagley and Noel are both out. They got too many centers over there. Why didn't they trade somebody? Spurs, looks like Vassell, Birch are both out. Keldon Johnson, Jones, Langford, so on. Game time decision. I don't want a whole lot to do with this game. I know the Spurs play tomorrow. Spurs haven't covered in like 3 weeks, maybe even a month. I'm not putting my money anywhere near San Antonio, and I just don't feel comfortable laying with Detroit. So, we have 11 games for today. It's Detroit or pass, but I'm going to pass. Do you feel stronger than I do? I guess my bad. Before I pass it to you, if I have to play anything, Spurs don't play any defense. And if I trust one person on that Piston side, it's got to be Bogdanovic. 21.5 points is his number for tonight. And I'm looking at him when he's playing against teams that are weak against the 3, and the Spurs are the worst 3-point defense. He's averaging about 22 points. So just slightly over what the number is for today. I would play Bogdanovic if I'm playing this game. I think that's the way to look. What do you think, Rob?
Yeah, and real quick, I wasn't even thinking of that, but while you were talking about a prop, I think it was with you on this show, Ski, where we had somebody in the chat suggesting the other day Jalen Duren rebounds or whatever the suggestion was to play Jalen Duren as a player prop. And now with Pirtle gone and Zach Collins as your starting center for the Spurs, Zach Collins is not the same skill set as Pirtle was, right? Pirtle's more rim defense and rebounds, and Collins is more of an offensive guy. A little shorter, not as great with rebounding. So maybe Duren rebounds. I don't know what the number is, but it jogged a memory. I think it was on this show. If somebody in the chat remembers pointing that out to us, go ahead and point that out again. I'll say this. I only look at the Spurs one way, and it's
Really
always been a
quick,
total.
Rob. All those people I named, they're all out. They just the injury report is coming out right now, but all those guys who are game time decision that I said, they're all out for the Spurs.
They're all right. So Trey Jones, Sohan, or
Yep.
Keldon Johnson, all those guys. Okay.
Yep.
So you can't. To get back to what I was saying real quick, Ski, I only look at the Spurs one way. You mentioned they don't cover any numbers. They've lost 9 in a row against the spread. So you don't want to play them at all. They're in full tank mode at this point in time. There it is, Jalen Duren. That's my guy. Okay. And I can't play them over. See, I always look at them as an over team because, we both know they don't play defense and they do score. But since these guys have been injured and out of the lineup, the offense has gone south. I just want to read some numbers here. 6 of the last 9 games that the Spurs have played, they've scored less than 110. And that's unlike what they were doing early on. 3 of their last 5 are 98, 104, 109. Then you get a 106, a 100, and a 104 thrown in there. And that's not enough to get over the total. When Detroit's been playing lousy offense as well, 85, 99, and 100 in their last 3 games. So, I don't want to play it under because I'm scared to death what'll happen if I do. But I can't possibly play it over. Detroit, another team at 14 and 42 that wants ping pong balls rather than wins. They're the better team here, though. I think if I had to suggest, I'd be in your corner where maybe a player prop is the best way to go in this game. And go ahead. And I think Duren at center will have a field day against Zach Collins. He's just not the same as Pirtle when it comes to getting rebounds. So maybe that's the way I would look here.
Yeah, Duren rebounds, Duren double-double could very well be a look here. Bogdanovich points the other way we would look as far as player props. So decent job. We got through that bum fight. Let's get to another game here. 559, 560. Phoenix Suns going up against the Indiana Pacers. Opened up Suns -1. We've seen a flip of favorites. It's now the Pacers -2.5. As far as the injury report, for the Pacers, you have George Hill, game time decision. Wara, game time decision, but unlikely. They're both unlikely. For Phoenix, Devin Booker is actually likely to play tonight. Game time decision. Darius Bazley, game time. Warren, game time. They will still be without Cameron Payne, Landry Shamet, and Kevin Durant. So, a lot of these guys, I guess if you get Booker back, I don't feel very strong about this game either. I still feel the same way that we talked about earlier, where I think the Suns are going to turn into an over team. I can't really use recent performance numbers, I feel like, for the Suns team right now. They are on a back-to-back, though, right? So I just feel like less defense will be played here. I lean towards the over, but not strong enough to play it. Do you feel stronger than me?
Well, I always feel strong when it's the Pacers, and they got me there the other night by some form of miracle against Miami. That game did get over the total. Played that one pretty strong. It got home. And the Pacers, when Halliburton's leading the show, they're just a really, really good offensive team. And I feel like they'll try and take advantage of a somewhat shortened Suns roster depth chart in the second of back-to-backs. So I could see Indiana running. I could see Indiana scoring. I could also see Indiana, again, we've mentioned this time and time again, they're the worst first quarter team against the spread in the NBA. So if you want to mechanically just fade Indiana first quarter, thinking that if Phoenix has anything in the tank from last night, because they're shorthanded, that it would be early, then maybe you could go that route. I haven't played it yet, Ski, but I don't know that I would shy away from the total going over here as quickly. Just because Phoenix did play last night, that same group has to come out here, plus Booker, which adds a little bit of offense tonight. They were smart in resting him the first of back-to-backs. And to get to 230 in a Pacer game, not all that difficult. Now, they did play late January. Game only hit 219. It was out in Phoenix. But I think that was a game that Halliburton missed. And when Halliburton wasn't involved in the lineup, they were playing an awful lot of unders. Since he comes back, they just, they're a better offensive team with him. So I could look that way, but I'll just reiterate one point that you made, that early season results for the Phoenix Suns, I've discarded. They're going to be a totally different team. I did the same thing with Dallas. I feel like Dallas is going to be a totally different team. When you make moves that are that big, that significant, get rid of that many pieces, I think you have to start over with the trends you've done. I think I have to start over. I don't mean everybody has to. So I can't really apply any of the early season numbers. Might look over 230 to me seems doable.
All right, so we line up there. We both lean towards the over. Nothing too heavy, nothing too strong in there. Let's keep going. Still a lot of games left. We have next one up, 561, 562, Utah and Toronto. This one opened Raptors -7.5. They're now a 7-point favorite. Total open 232, and it's all the way down to 230 as far as an injury report for this game. And let me also hit the refresh button because this news is coming out minute by minute. So for this one, we have Jakob Poeltl, game time decision. OG is out. As far as for the Jazz, we have Clarkson, game time decision. They'll be without Damian Jones, JTA, Westbrook, Potter. So when I saw the moves that the Jazz were making, I don't know. I just feel like they don't want to win any more games. That was just my feeling. This Raptors team is not a team I really trust to win by margin, but I just don't trust Utah, and especially with them playing tomorrow. So, do you have a case to be made for Toronto, or how do you feel about this game?
Well, I was going to go ahead and I'd say we were talking earlier about the trade deadline, and when I see this for Utah and Jordan Clarkson being out took me off the over. But when you see Sexton, Clarkson, Markkanen, Olynyk, and Kessler, we want to talk about over teams. They were already an over team. This is going to be an over team the rest of the way out. That five, aside from Kessler, it's not a good defensive team whatsoever. And the bigs, Olynyk and Kessler, run the floor as good as any 4 and 5 in the game. They're up and down the floor, those two guys. So I think that this team is going to be an over. However, their lack of defense pushes me to a Toronto team total over, Ski. We thought they were going to subtract pieces. They didn't. They've been a fairly good offensive team as of late. 118, 111, 131 in 3 of their last 4 games. Their team total for this one, I'm going to look it up again. I thought I saw 119. Is that what I saw on this game?
Team total?
118 and a half. I need a 119 to win. And I think it's doable against this defense. So that may be a lean here. Toronto team total, full game over. You have to hope, if you're me, that it's not a rout and Toronto decides to, pull guys at the end. But I just think that Utah's defense is going to be horrendous the rest of the way out. So I think team total Toronto over is the best way. For a full game, I think is the best way I could go.
So my question would be, why is the total dropping here? Let me just go back and glance at the injury report. Why is
could it be Clarkson? I don't know.
Yeah, he's definitely a big deal as far as scoring. He's true game time decision. Not likely, not unlikely. So that could be it. But I agree with your assessment as far as Utah is not going to be a great defensive team. They already haven't been a great defensive team the last 5 games. They're the second worst and top 10 offensive rated team in that same span. And this one, I might just play a full game over if I'm thinking about points, just because Toronto, their team that's not very good defending the perimeter, and Utah's a pretty solid team shooting the 3. Maybe even look at Markkanen's threes tonight or something like that too. But I do like your look as far as the over for the game, and I'm gonna do a little bit more work and see if I get there by the end of the day. And Munaf, he said Walker Kessler over 9.5 rebounds and over 2.5 blocks. He said he had 17 points and 14 rebounds, 7 blocks against the Raptors earlier this season. Good call out by Munaf. Appreciate you sharing that info. And as always, if you guys have questions about the games, feel free to ask. And if you guys have looks, feel free to share. We all want to try to cash in with you, just like Munaf is sharing right there. So appreciate that. Next game up, we have Charlotte and Boston, 563, 564. This one opened Boston as big favorites. They were minus 11, and it's currently minus 11 and a half. Total open 230, and I see it as low as 225 right now. Best number you can get if you like the under is 226. Injury report here. I did see earlier something with Tatum, right? Tatum, he's game time decision here. Horford also game time decision. Brogdon, game time, but he's likely. Muscala, that Muscala pickup was funny to me just because they said they saw him. They must have saw him play the Lakers the other night. He's going off hitting 5 threes in a row or something. They said, "Oh, let me get that guy." Jaylen Brown is out. Gallinari's still out. Smart is out. So a lot of the guys, not available for the Celtics team. It could be without 2 more starters in Tatum and Horford. And on the flip side, Svi game time decision. Svi Mikhailiuk, Reggie Jackson, Cody Martin, and Kelly Oubre all out. How I felt about this one, Rob, I was liking an under, and I liked it for a few different reasons. Let me just look at the recent performance stats here. You have a Hornets team who's the 3rd worst offensive rated team in the last 5 games, going up against a Boston team who's the 3rd best defensive rated team in that same span. Kind of, opposites as far as the pace goes. Charlotte likes to push it. Boston has been playing at the 2nd slowest pace last 5 games. And you have a Hornets team who can't really shoot the 3, or not, that's being nice about it. They've been terrible shooting the 3 this season. They're the worst team in the league. And Boston is top 10 defending the perimeter. So all of that lines up for less points for Charlotte. I was looking at their team total under the 107 and a half. I know Boston has held every opponent so far this month. I think there's been 4 of them under that number. And let's see. Yeah, the last 2 weeks even, they're only allowing opponents 104.2 points per game. So I like that. But I also think with everybody missing from the Boston side, and Charlotte hasn't been playing terrible defense lately, and if they're playing at that slow pace, it could be a game like we saw the other day with the Cavaliers. Who was it? The Cavaliers and the Pistons, where Cavs, were running away with it, and the Pistons just couldn't put up anything. The team total under hit for the Pistons and the full game under hit. That's what I like here. I have a system for the full game under, and it pretty much, let's try not to make this one too complicated. The gist of it is you're looking at the average points that one team is scoring at the site. When I say site, that's the home road, plus the points that the opponent is scoring at the site. And it's saying that when you combine them, it's a lot more than this total. So why is this total so low? It's low for a reason. And it's also looking at teams who, are just not too much of an under team. They're at least a 45% or better to the over. So again, the system is pretty much just saying this number is low for a reason. I have big sample size. It goes all the way back to 2017, 382 unders, 226 overs, 20 pushes. That's 62.8% to the under. So I like Charlotte team total under 107.5, and I like the full game total under the 226. And one last thing, Charlotte also one of those road teams on the front end of a back-to-back. Those teams so far this season about 57.6% to the under. Do you agree with me, Rob? Think it's less points in this game?
Charlotte's played 5 straight under the total. Like you said, they just haven't been able to do much of anything, and they're still continually overpriced, right, where that's concerned. I mean, we both get their style and their pace, and that's why we've seen Charlotte totals for 2 years way up there. But it seems like the odds makers have been really slow to bring them down. And perhaps in this game, like you say, I mean, this one's low. Let's face it. Jaylen Brown out. Jason Tatum, I did see went through shoot around, but whenever I see a guy, the question mark go next to his name because of non-COVID illness, it's Charlotte. Maybe Jason Tatum doesn't have to play. But you know who's returning to the lineup tonight? They held the Sixers to 99 points the other night without Al Horford and Robert Williams. They had no real center. And the Celtics held them to 99. Tonight, here's what I had written down. And I mean, again, I don't play a lot of props. And I don't know which guy you would like better, Al Horford on the boards or Robert Williams on the boards. But Mason Plumlee's out of there now. And Nick Richards is your starting center for Charlotte. One of those two guys, if not both, is going to grab double-digit rebounds in this game. At least that's the way I think, especially if Tatum doesn't play and he doesn't get his. You have to look that way. I don't know which one the chat room would prefer, but I would think Al Horford or Robert Williams as a player prop. Rebounds over is concerned. I think that would be really, really good. I don't know that the Celtics will play faster pace, right? You got Horford and Williams on the floor at the same time. Maybe the game slows down to your point about under 226.5. So I think there's a lot of support fundamentally to play under in this game. I don't even know how much how much energy they'll exert in this game after coming off. The Philadelphia game was the big one, not this one. So I'm kind of with you there, but I'm especially high on one of those two bigs getting their rebounds in this game, because Nick Richards just isn't a guy who plays a lot of minutes, and he's not a guy who I feel is going to contend on the boards with those two. So, PJ Washington's the other big in that starting lineup. It would seem to me Horford and Williams could have their way on the boards. And if there's a lot of bricks, like you're saying, Charlotte shoots so lousy, it just gives us a chance for more boards.
Absolutely. We got a lot of comments here. At first, I wanted to say I agree with that look on Robert Williams over his rebounds. I think I'm going to add that one. I had something pulled here versus bottom 10 defenses. He is averaging 12 rebounds, and the number wasn't out earlier. That's why I didn't have it. But I'm looking if it's 9.5, maybe even 10.5. I'll probably look to play that. I think he'll have success tonight, like you mentioned. Saturated says, can Derek White get to his points? Let us know what the point prop is. I didn't pull that one. And before this one gets too lost, I know we're not on this game yet, but we did have a question. I want to get to everybody's questions, or as many as I can. It doesn't have to be long-winded, but Ajax says this new Nets team looks nice. Are you buying or selling the squad? I'll say they did not get rid of a couple of guys that they got in return who can move the needle on a whole lot of other teams who are really good players. So that tells me that they still want to compete. They're still up there in the standings, and the East got a little bit. I don't know. I feel like the Nets can still compete. So I wouldn't say they're tanking or anything like that. I guess I'm buying. What do you think, Rob?
I would say the same. Now, listen, I had another opinion. I was on the NBA tip-off show yesterday for Wager Talking with a couple other guys who had the opinion that they were going to fade Brooklyn because they want their draft picks to be better, higher up. But the draft picks that they acquired, Ski, are from Phoenix. They're from good teams. So it doesn't matter how bad you stink if you're getting Phoenix's draft picks. I mean, they're not going to get any higher and tossed into the lottery. And the fact that, I think you just said this, but I'll say again, the fact that they didn't trade Mikal Bridges, I think is important here, that they acquired what they acquired and they hung on to it. And maybe they're going to use these draft picks that they acquired to try and flip over the summer and get even better. I had read an article today, Sean Marks, the general manager for the Nets, who said that they're not in the business of blowing things up and rebuilding. He said they still want to be good. And the fact is that after last night, I think they're a 33-22 team. They're in the playoff hunt right now. So I'm buying what the Nets have. I think Dinwiddie, all these guys, Finney-Smith. I mean, think of how good they are defensively at the forward position now with Bridges and Finney-Smith. Those might be the two best 3-and-D guys in the end. At least they're in the top 5. So, yeah, I would say I'm buying Brooklyn.
All right, we both agree on that. Patrick is asking about the Knicks. He says it went from +5 to +7 with no added injuries. Thoughts? Yeah, it probably means, we talked about it earlier in the show, probably means Embiid is going to play. We talked about that game in pretty good detail. It was the first game we talked about. So if you want to rewind, you can get a pretty good breakdown on that one. Look at a couple more comments. That rebound number for Robert Williams is 11.5. So still might look at it. May not play it too heavy, but I think it's still worth a look. Let's see, a couple more comments here. Saturated is talking about that beatdown the Bulls got. Corey, I guess he wants to get to the Bucks and Clippers game, so we can skip ahead. We'll do that. What up, Flipper? Flipper, long time he's been around, my friend, and good to see you in the chat. Chris Clark is mad at LaMelo. Everybody's mad at LaMelo in here. Somebody else commented this. I think it was Saturated. He said, LaMelo under. F that guy. Everybody's mad at LaMelo. All right, let's let Corey lead us into this one. He says Bucks +2 / money line on a back-to-back versus the Clippers. Milwaukee's 5-1 against the spread on no rest. Clippers look streaky as of late. Of that game, let's just look at the current numbers. This is 575, 576. Rob, it's the last one on the schedule. Open -1.5 for the Clippers. Now -2. Total open 227. Still sitting around 227. And let's just double check these injury reports because I don't think everybody is going to play here. So let's hit refresh. For Milwaukee, Chris Middleton has been added to the injury report. He's game time decision. Joe Ingles, game time decision. Wait, I'm sorry. Chris Middleton is very likely to play still. It says Ingles, likely to play. Bobby Portis, game time decision. Crowder, out. For the Clippers, looks like they won't be getting Eric Gordon tonight. Bones Highland is out. Kawhi Leonard is going to be out. And Plumlee is out. So I might be too late to the party here for the way I was looking at this game. Oh, no, the total didn't move. So I was thinking under here, Rob. Really, he's asking about the side. I'll tell you this. I think it's pretty telling. When I look at games like this, I think it's pretty telling that the Bucks, how many games have they won in a row? I think they've won for like 3 weeks in a row now, right? And they've been covering as of late. And they're a road dog now versus a team that they have a better record than. I feel like that's pretty telling. So being on the back-to-back, that's probably number one. And it's probably saying, somebody's going to sit here. That's really how I see it. The actual numbers to what I was kind of just saying, since 2014, road dogs off 5 or more straight wins with a better win percentage than their opponent. I have them as 30-72 straight up, 29.4%, 40, 59-3 against the spread, 40.4%. That says to fade the Bucks tonight. That says catch that falling knife and go with the Clippers. So it makes sense to me when I think about it like that. But I don't know how much I want to get in front of the Bucks at the same time. And the total, I was thinking under here, and really I was just matching up the home and road splits for how both of these teams have been playing this year. They're combined 39-13 to the under. And both teams' last 5 games, they're top 10 defensive rated teams. I just think it'll be a lower scoring game here. So lean under, lean Clippers. What do you think, Rob? You catching that knife?
First thing I think is, what is Kawhi doing sitting out? They had a day off. They don't play again until the 14th. Are you kidding me? He needs 6 days off to rest. It's crazy. This is a team that's supposed to be trying to, put things together here. I felt 2 ways, Ski. Before the end of the Lakers game last night, I was thinking the Clippers might be a good team to catch the Bucks off of back-to-backs. Then I heard Giannis's post-game interview, and I mean, Giannis was all business. He could care less that they just beat the Lakers. We have to go in there tomorrow and win that Clippers game. He was all business, focus, and so that puts me back to the Bucks side. The fact that Kawhi isn't going to play would push me a little further to the Bucks side. However, that miserable performance LA had against the Dallas Mavericks tonight, when Dallas marched like 8 guys in there and beat them straight up, has me thinking that maybe the Clips, would like to atone for that loss. But when you see Kawhi sitting, you got to think to yourself, what are we doing? The guys you mentioned, Bones Highland, Eric Gordon, Mason Plumlee, they're going to be nice additions. But the Clippers starting lineup, other than Kawhi, it's not really affected. Their rotation isn't really affected by the trades that they made. You're still going to get George and Mann, Morris, Zubats, Norman Powell, Covington. All those guys will be there. So it's not a team that is kind of ripped apart as far as cohesion goes for this particular game. I'm kind of at a crossroads, but I would listen. I would definitely listen on under 227. When the Bucks last night decided to play defense in the second half, they played defense. And we just know that they're capable of turning it on and off. And the Clippers are a pretty good defensive team as well. I don't know. That would probably be the closest thing I would have to a play in this game would be possibly full game under. But the side just escapes me here because I think I have reasons why I would like to play on and against both of these teams.
Yeah, I'm with you. I feel strongest about the under, especially with Kawhi sitting out. I don't really want to touch that Clipper side the more I think about it. Couple comments. Wayne, that's, I always love to hear stuff like that. Appreciate you stopping in. Flipper, he's asking if the Lakers are formidable again. We talked about, or maybe not too much, but yes, they made a lot of good moves. They can definitely compete. The West it's pretty hectic in the West. It's not going to be easy, but it's a lot better roster that Rob put around them for the rest of the season. So I like it. You agree, Rob?
I do. I mean, they put themselves in a bit of a hole as the 13th seed and trying to chase down other teams. Utah will fall. But they've got work to do ahead of them. They probably have to close the season, Ski. Let's say they have to close like 17-8, something like that, to make sure they get in there because everybody in the West seemingly made moves.
Yeah, absolutely. And they play the Warriors, I think, next game. I think it's tomorrow. So we'll see how they look. Should get a couple of those guys in the lineup, and I'm going to be tuned in. I'll tell you that, 48 minutes. When they had the bum roster over the past 2 years, and I saw nobody was trying, and it was just bad basketball. You know how I used to say, Rob? I said, I'm not even going to watch. I'm just going to bet the over and go to the club, cash the ticket later because no defense will be played. Hopefully they do a little bit better now. We have a comment that says Dallas and Sacramento is the next game they would like us to get to. So let's move over there. Let me find it on the location on the odd screen. 573, 574. We have Sacramento opened as a 1.5 point favorite. We've seen a flip of favorites now. Dallas -1, -1.5 at Westgate. Majority of shops are -1 though. Injury report here. Let me hit the refresh button because I know these things change every single minute. Luka is game time decision still. Bertans is out. Maxi Kleber is out. For Sacramento, they don't have anybody on the injury report. They're clean. So for this one, I'll mention this. It's the first game back home after a really long road trip for Sacramento, right? We know we like to fake that, and both of these teams play tomorrow. So take that for what it's worth. I just think Sacramento's been trending a little bit downwards lately. Just looking at their last 5 games, they've been able to play offense, they've been able to score, but they're not rebounding anymore. Second worst rebounding team in the league last 5 games. Bottom 10 defensive team. And if you're not doing any of those things, you're going up against 2 superstars. I just see Kyrie and Luka eating all night long. So I have to roll with the Dallas side if I'm playing here. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, the switching favorites and the push in the total, because before we came on, Ski, this was a Sacramento -2 maybe and 233.5, 234. Now we're seeing what we're seeing because Luka was announced in. So okay. Luka's going to play. And now, in fact, screen goes red. It's 237.5, 238 over at Circa. So we're seeing a big bump toward the over. And I had some numbers that supported the over. Believe it or not, I did a little SDQL on that one.
Oh boy! Would have Don't tell Tony.
But yeah, I mean, Sacramento at home about 240 a game on average. Sacramento as a home favorite was like 242 at home. They have a lot of over trends. Over the particular number that at the time was 234. Now it's getting up there again. You just lost 4 points in value, 3.5, 4 points in value with Luka being in. The question you got to ask yourself is, does Luka being on the floor add to that total, or is it going to take a little time for him and Kyrie? I got to tell you the truth. I watched Dallas against LA, and man, they look like a group that's played together for a while. That young group is good. They're small, but Sabonis is no giant in the middle. So I don't know that a smallish team opponent here can take advantage of Dallas. I still kind of like over Ski, and I think if I had to choose a team, I would choose Dallas here because what they've done I know a lot of talk about getting rid of Finney Smith and how good his defense was. But when you watch the two young wings play, Hardy and Green, they're going to be good defenders. And these kids look pretty good right now. So Reggie Bullock's still there to play defense. I think Dallas is clearly the better defensive team, even though they're not a great team. They're better than Sacramento. So I'd probably look Dallas. It's not a statistical thing. It's not a real factual thing. It's more like a feel when you watch a team. We talked about it earlier, rejuvenated locker rooms. I just see that in Dallas right now. Sacramento's trying as well, but the bottom may fall out on Sacramento now that the rest of the West got better. They're lucky they built that big cushion here. I think Dallas probably the right side, but I do like over in some capacity, whether it be Dallas team total or a full game over.
That's good point. I mean, I might want to include Sacramento scoring too, but I can't talk you off and over. I mean, I had a comment earlier. Chris Clark said Dallas said they would play with more pace. I mean, that's how I look at them, and I just really see pace and points. So maybe I'll look towards the over. But I can't help but think, Rob, two best players on the court on the same side. You talked about how motivated that group is. Dallas has -1, just win the game. Which one would you choose? I choose Dallas -1.
Here's what I would choose. If you were thinking about making a comeback as just a spot-up three-point shooter, you would love to play with Luka and Kyrie because, man, the open looks I was seeing Kyrie get for these guys the other night were one right after the other. I mean, they're going to bury 15 to 23s every night, this team, if they're on, and you don't even have to be great. So, yeah, I would probably look Dallas. I think something that got lost in us talking back and forth here, Ski, is what you opened with. And you opened with Sacramento back home after a long road trip, right? And we love to fade those teams. So that's just another angle here that's usually a pretty strong one, as a matter of fact. So Dallas makes sense to me.
We're getting Vaughn says now Luka's not expected to play via underdog.
Is that right? Well, then
boy.
Let's watch what the line does then.
I know I know what I'll be doing. I'll be just waiting this one out, man. I'll play this one if I think about it closer to 7 p.m. I don't want nothing to do with the injury. How do you say? I just don't like when they play with the injury report like that. I don't want to be involved early. So
it's a funny game too, Ski, because they play on the same floor, the same two teams tomorrow night. So if Luka sits and the total comes back down, I would get on over anyway. I still think Fox and company against Kyrie and company would still produce an over 234 if it goes back that direction. So we'll wait it out. You said the right thing here. We'll just wait it out and see what happens.
All right, good stuff. Chris Clark, he helped me out there. Injury manipulation. That's what I was trying to get to. That's what I was trying to say. Blanking out. Appreciate the help. All right, we'll get back to rotation order. I don't see any more questions in the chat. Next game that we have not covered here is 566 Minnesota and Memphis. This one opened the Grizzlies as a 9-point favorite, down to about 6.5 or 7 at most shops. Total open 236, down to about 234.5. Seeing both of those, I'd imagine somebody is sitting in this game. So let's click over to the injury report and hit the refresh button. We have Luke Kennard, game time decision for Memphis, and Steven Adams still continues to be out. For Minnesota, Alexander Walker, game time decision. Anderson, game time. Conley, game time. Gobert, game time. Towns, obviously, still out. This game, I feel like Minnesota's been playing a little bit better than Memphis, but really, if I'm playing this one, it's a fade of Memphis. They haven't really been covering games like that the last 3 weeks. And until I see some consistency, until I see Steven Adams back in the lineup, I don't want to be expecting them to win by margins. That's my initial thought. I'll get back to my note sheet because I lost it. But how do you feel about this one, Rob?
Well, you and I, we had this game on one of the shows a couple of weeks ago, or maybe less than 2 weeks ago. And I know we had a little back and forth on the total here. because when you just incorporate styles, you're inclined to play over. But when you go back to that playoff series last year, they played 5 of the last 6 under, including the one that they just played last week. It was like 111 to 100, way under the total. And for some reason, these two teams are playing a lot of unders. It's hard to explain because, again, when we try and break it down as matchups on the floor, you wouldn't expect an under, pace and scoring and all that stuff included. But Memphis has played real good or decent defense as of late. In fact, Jaren Jackson it's funny, Jaren Jackson, somebody calling out the official score for Memphis saying that he's padding all of Jaren Jackson's stats to make him a great block shot guy. And the other funny thing, I'm going to go off the rails here a little bit, but there's more talk about Ja's entourage than there is his game right now. Everybody's mad at Ja trying to change image. They played a funny game the other night, Ski. They got out in front of the Bulls at halftime and covered a first half number. And then when the third quarter started, they lost their entire lead and got behind by like 6 or 7, and then came back and covered a 9-point spread. So they took a little bit of time off and then came back and won again. They're hard to figure because when they're just focused on basketball, they're a pretty good team. But they get caught up in referee whistles and they get distracted during 48 minutes. And I don't know that you want to be distracted against the T-Wolves. Now, the question for the T-Wolves is how much does D'Angelo Russell leaving hurt? I mean, Mike Conley.
Oh, no, it helps. They didn't like him over there.
Pace with Conley would be a little different, right, than it would be with Russell for sure. Conley's going to be a little more deliberate than D'Lo was. And I wonder if it affects the number of possessions in Minnesota games. I'm probably going to watch them for a little bit just to see how that goes. And then again, like you said, their injury list is full of question marks one more time here, including Gobert, who we never know what the status of Rudy Gobert is going to be. He had a miserable stat line the other night. I think like 19 minutes, no points, 0 for 2 from the field. So we'll see. Minnesota's a little tough for me to gauge right now. And this is a shot for Memphis. If they were playing better, I'd probably be on. They're not playing better. Minnesota's made an awful lot of changes here for me. So I'll probably let this one go.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe a game we watch, but I'm definitely leaning towards the Minnesota side here. Let's keep it going. We have 567, 568. We have about 3 more games left in the association. We're getting slowly but surely, we're getting through this big card. Houston and Miami. This one opened Miami Heat minus 10.5. They're now 12.5 or 12-point favorite. Total open 227, and it's dropped all the way down to 220, even 219.5 at Westgate. Injury report here. Have to check with that big of a move. For Houston, Holiday, game time decision. Kaminsky, game time decision. It looks like Danny Green is out. KPJ is out. For the Heat, Gabe Vincent, game time decision. Jovic out. Lowry out. Oladipo out. Duncan Robinson out. This one, I did have a system, but I don't know how much I trust it here just because, well, I guess it's still kind of some of these same players here for this Rockets team. The system says the team has pretty much played 3 straight overs, and they went over the number by like more than 10 points. Like it wasn't a close cut over, and their opponent is also off an over game. Since 2016, I have them 96, 68, and 3 to the over. It's about 58.5%. That says that's the way we should go in this one. And looking at Houston, they've been the worst defensive rated team in the league the last 5 games. I know before their previous game, Coach Silas was crying for them to play some defense. I don't know how much defense they played, but it was a closer game, a little bit better, I guess you can say. I still don't trust them to stop anybody. So just a combination of that with them being a top 10 offensive rated team in that same span. I would rather play this one over. I mean, I would bucket. I think it's gone too low here. I would go over the 219.5 if I'm getting involved. Also, Miami Heat play tomorrow. So the reason I don't want to back them, well, for one, the Rockets have been playing a little bit better basketball as far as covering the number. They're a top 10 offensive rated team and rebounding team the last 5 games. It's just been the defense where they're not even trying. The Heat being this big of a favorite and having a game the next day, I just feel like, if they're already beating this team and is getting to the end of the game, they could take some of those guys out, and you can see a backdoor from this Houston Rockets team. So I guess I'll lean Rockets on the spread, and I'll lean to the over on the game. How do you feel, Rob?
Well, we lean the same way on both. And I tried Indiana, Miami over a higher number the other night. They got that. I think it was 223.5, 224. It made it. You've heard me say before that I just feel like Miami's always shortchanged on totals because they're Miami. And with Miami comes a perception. But I got to tell you, Ski, I cannot figure out for the life of me this 8-point drop in the total for no reason. Kevin Porter Jr. hasn't played in forever. And it's not like anybody else is different in that lineup. They're all the same guys, Jalen Green, KJ Martin, Jabari Smith, Şengün. And on the other side, the same 4 injuries have existed for the last 4 games. You still have Tyler Hero. You still have Jimmy Butler. You still have Bam Adebayo, who's playing outrageously well as of late. So I don't understand, unless somebody knows that at last minute, we're going to see Jimmy Butler ruled out because of a back-to-back or Bam Adebayo ruled out. I can't figure out why this thing is dropped. Really makes no sense whatsoever. Now, to the point about Houston as a dog cover, I'll tell you this. I think I went through all these numbers this morning and I found Miami to be the most overpriced team in the NBA. I'll just shoot you some numbers that apply to the situation tonight. Miami at home. Straight up 18-9, 67% wins at home straight up. However, against the spread, 8-17-2. Win games, don't cover. Miami as a favorite in general, 24-14, but 11-25-2, 30.6% cover rate. Don't cover. As a home favorite, they're 17-7. Great, they win games, but against the spread, they're 6-16-2, 27.3. I mean, this team does nothing but win games, but they don't cover any of them. And now you're going to ask them to lay 12 in the front of a back-to-back. I'm with you. If I was going to play, I would play Houston just based off of the fact that Miami seems to be the most overpriced team in the NBA right now, just by those numbers. When you can have that much of a discrepancy between straight up and ATS, you know you're overpriced.
I like it. That's going to be something I add to my pocket. Miami's not covering games right now. I think, and Houston is. So I'll be on Houston plus the 12 points shortly after the show. And maybe, just maybe the over, but I think I like Houston more right now. Anything you can say to talk me off the over?
No, because I like it too, but I can't figure out why it's 219.5. It just makes no sense.
Yeah.
I got investigated a little more, Ski, but listen, Houston's last 4 games, real quick, I had them here. I mean, you know what they were because you were talking about how bad they've been defensively.
They're allowing 126.7 points per game in the last 2 weeks. I know that.
Their games go 258, 260, 274.
Okay, I'm back in.
It's hard not to be. It really is. I don't know what people are seeing. I don't see it.
All right, like it. Get to the window with that a little bit after the show. Sacramento is now -4. And
there goes Luka.
They're just playing with that game, and I probably would just watch that one, just leave it alone. Let's get to, we have 2 more left on the slate for NBA here. We have 569, 570. That's Cleveland Cavaliers going up against the New Orleans Pelicans. Open Cavs -2.5. We see them as a 3-point favorite. Total open 224.5, and we're looking at 223 pretty much across the board right now. And we will double check the injury report. For Cleveland, looks like Rubio and Windler out. For the Pelicans, Daniels, Liddell, Josh Richardson, and Zion all out. This one, I don't have very much to say other than I don't really like to lay points with the Cavs. I mean, it's a small spread, right? But they don't even have a winning record on the road. And I know it was mostly earlier in the year, but the Pelicans have been pretty damn good at home. They're 20-9 straight up. So they have the rest advantage 2 days to 1. And the Cavaliers also play tomorrow. So I would be looking towards the Pelican side if I'm getting involved. What do you think, Rob?
Yeah, they're both playing really good, but I would say this: Cleveland, the last 5 games or so, they're flexing their defensive muscle again. I mean, and the last 5 games they've played, the Cavs, they allowed 85 points, 91 points, 103, 100, and 99. 5 of their last 6. Memphis got to 113 against them. You don't hear under come out of my mouth a lot, and for good reason. I don't like to play unders, but this kind of screams of one because New Orleans has played pretty good defense lately too. They're on that huge losing streak, and they've turned it around with 3 straight wins and covers against good offensive teams, Lakers, Sacramento, and Atlanta. And Dallas is included in that mix, and only one of those teams got over 111. So Cleveland's generally not a quick-paced team. I think this could get into a game where we see like for 6-7 minutes where it's really low scoring, and that's all it takes to keep it under 223. So I'd probably look at that a little bit. I don't have an opinion on the game because I think both teams are playing really well right now.
Fair enough. I won't be involved in this game. I'll leave this one alone. Razor's joking with me saying, if you want to he started a petition for me to veto the Westbrook trade. You don't know how happy I was, Razor. I was sounding like you. As soon as I saw it on my phone, I was going to be good this week, Razor. I was not going to be the party guy until the weekend. I saw it pop up on Wednesday night, and I turned into Razor. I said, shot time. It's time I'm going to the bar immediately. So, nah, I'm not doing anything to get Westbrook back over here. He can go to the Clippers. That'll make me very happy. Then they'll never win for sure. All right, let's keep it going. One more game left on the slate. OKC in Portland here. Opened up Blazers -3.5. Looking at 3 pretty much across the board here. Total open 242 is down to 239.5. Injury report. Let's get over there and see maybe why the total is dropping here. For the OKC side, we have Saric, game time decision, but he's very likely. Lou Dort, game time decision. Robinson Earl, game time decision. Pokasevsky, still out. For the Blazers, looks like Kevin Knox is game time, but very likely to go. Archie, he's game time, a toss-up. We're looking, they got a lot of people on his injury report for Portland. Keon Johnson is game time. Cam Reddish is game time. Matisse Thybulle game time. Baji, Nurkic, and Winslow are out. So, sheesh, that would feel like a lot to get through, just the injury report. I know OKC plays up tempo. They're number 1 in pace the last 5 games. And I think, they can pace Portland up. Neither one of these teams very good defensively. If you want to look at, last 5 games, they're bottom 5 defensive rated teams in that span. And both teams pretty good shooting the 3 so far in the season and a lot worse defending it. So you have a lot of 3-point shooters on this Portland team, right? Lillard, Simons. I don't know. I just see a fast up-tempo game. I would look more towards the over. The system that I had on one of the earlier games where it's live on OKC, it says pretty much that they've cleared the total in their past 3 games by more than 10, and Portland is also off an over game, and the over is hitting about 58.5% going back to 2016 in those type of games. So lean over. If I'm doing anything on a player prop, I might look towards 3-point props on the guys I said for Portland. I'll probably just bet either Giddey rebounds. I bet Gildress Alexander points or something like that, and also Lillard assists over 8.5. Just looking at versus bottom 10 defenses, when he's playing at home, at least he's averaging more than 9. So few props to take a look at. Not sure which way I'll get to the window at the end of the day, but I'm interested in this game for sure. Are you, Rob?
Well, I'm interested from the over perspective. I agree with everything you said. I think you have to play over. Portland, it's kind of funny. They haven't been a season-long good team point scoring early, but second half explodes. OKC hasn't been great in the first quarter either. Their second halves are generally bigger, but somehow OKC gets there. So I can definitely see an over. This Portland situation is going to be funny to look at, Ski, or interesting to look at. trade Josh Hart out of there. When they do get Matisse Thybulle in uniform, when they do get Cam Reddish in uniform, I don't know that they've made themselves any better. I don't know what they've accomplished here with the moves that they made. Kevin Knox, when's the last time Kevin Knox was in a game? When he was at Kentucky, I don't even remember. So it's hard to figure out what they were thinking of when they got rid of Josh Hart, unless it was contractual and they wanted to get rid of money. I'm not positive about that. And to me, they're an offensive team. They still lack defense. You take Nurkic out of there and put Drew Eubanks in, they don't get any better defensively. So I'm going to say over is the way I would look at that game. OKC plays one way, and they played it really well this year. So I would look that direction.
All right, we agree on that one. Saturated agrees. He says 240 doesn't seem high enough. Razor's liking a player prop. I saw him come in and drop this, I think, the other day when we were on. PJ Washington over 1.5 threes, and I'm pretty sure won that day. So another play there. Chris Clark is liking Brandon Ingram over 23.5 points today. So a lot of different looks people are sharing in the chat. Appreciate you guys sharing those looks. That's the NBA slate for today. So, and yeah, free Dame. All that talk about, Kevin Knox and just, I don't know what they're even doing, but it's not enough. Get Dame out of there. Let him do something before he just wastes his career away. Super Bowl, Rob, I haven't done too much adding. The past couple of years, loaded up on all kind of props and all kind of things. But I didn't get to it as early as I should have, and a lot of these numbers have started to move. So, like as far as these props, like team to score last, win the game, or like the sack prop was 3.5, it's up to 5.5. A lot of these numbers are already gone. So, is there anything that you've maybe added since the last time we've talked, or have you? Who are you rolling with? Who's winning the game?
If you live in my world, Ski, you just root for everybody because I go out there and like the over. I think both teams will be able to offensively do some things in this game. Stuff that I added real quick. I added Devontae Smith over 62.5 receiving yards for the Birds. I added, I get into these tackles, solo and assist tackles. I played Chauncey Gardner-Johnson over the 5.5, just knowing that he's going to get he's going to pay special attention to Travis Kelce. So even if Kelce catches the ball, your strong safety should make tackles anyway, let alone being assigned to double cover a tight end. So I tried that. But I think everybody's going to do well. I think I told you before I played Jerick McKinnon over the receptions 2.5. I think Jerick McKinnon will be busy in this game for KC. And I like the points. I think it's going to get over. I mean, I see 50. And if you can still get the 50.5s in there out there, guys, if you like over, go ahead and get the 50.5. Don't wait around until it's all 51s because that's such a key number. I could see a lot of things. I looked at total yardage in the game, Ski, and I think combined, I might end up playing over the total yardage by these two teams. To me, it looks like a game where, somebody gets up near 400 and the other guy is really, really close. And if Mahomes is chasing in the fourth quarter, I wouldn't be surprised if he throws for 120, 130 in the fourth quarter alone. So those are things I looked at, and I still got more to go. Like you say, that prop list, first of all, it's so long. And second of all, by the time you get through the 58 pages of props, the numbers are gone, like you said before. So you got to kind of reassess. And I think that's where I'm at right now. But that's some of the stuff that I'm rolling with at this point.
All right, good stuff there. I'm on the Chiefs plus 106. I am on shortest touchdown under 1.5 yards. I'm on that McKinnon over 20.5 receiving yards. We've talked about these over the past week and a half or so. So those are the ones I kind of, and I'm on a first half over 24. I think that's what we talked about too one day. So 4 plays, I think so far that I've made. I have to do just exactly what you said. Go back through the long book and see what props I can still get in on at the current numbers. But here's how I feel, Rob. If I was to play the Eagles in this game, like I feel like everybody's looking at the Eagles and just think it's going to be so easy just because of who they've been playing. And I get that they've been winning those games and winning by margin, but you remember the question I asked you, Rob, on Wednesday? I think it was Wednesday. I said, how many real quarterbacks has Jalen Hurts faced? You remember the answer is only one.
Is it
Aaron
Prescott? Who's the one? Oh, Rodgers.
Rodgers, yeah, fuck Prescott. I'm not buying Prescott. All he does is throw picks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's funny because you can go back and forth on it. And I'm not a guy who objects to playing props on both sides of the field. Like, I'm not somebody who takes my gameplay and then has to correlate every single one of my props to that gameplay. There's guys who will do that. They'll tie 15 props to what they have on the game. And if the game goes in the shitter, everything goes with it. I don't mind playing KC players over their totals in a game that I think that's going to be high scoring. Eagles players, if I think it's going to be high scoring. One number to note real quick, the team total for the Eagles in the first half is 12.5. They played 19 games, 16 of them, they scored more than 12.5 in the first half, which would be helpful to your first half over with both teams combined, right? And the only times they didn't, two of them were when Jalen Hurts didn't play and when the Giants didn't play any starters in the last game. So really you could call that 16-1 to get to 13. I'm of the opinion that both of these head coaches can, because Kansas City likes to strike quick as well. They score a lot in the first half. It's hard to stop their scripted stuff right out of the gate. And I think these defenses might be on their heels early here. So to your first half play, I think you're on a good side there. And I do think if you're just looking for sheer numbers, Eagles 16-3 over 12.5, that's pretty strong.
Yeah, I'll probably add the 12.5 as well as the first half for both teams combined. So we'll do more work. We won't get another chance to talk about it, but wish you luck on those Super Bowl bets. And I feel like we've done a good show today, Rob. It's probably time to do a little bit of promotion, let the people know if you like one play a little bit more than the others.
Well, let me say this too, because I thought about you last night watching Long Beach at home go over the total. So I said, man, that's a ski play if I ever saw one. They were on last night. We got to roll into college basketball as the weeks go on here, guys. We'll get there for you. Promotion, I say the same thing all the time. Johnny, if you're watching, we'll get it out there for you. Wagertalk.com. If you're not currently a member, go on over there, drop your email address. You'll get access to all the media content we do as a group each and every day for free. And game analysis on every single sport imaginable. And in fact, they've added a new show. For those of you out there who bet these off sports, you bet golf, you bet tennis, you bet whatever. I mean, I'm going to be covering XFL and USFL on this show. But they've added a new show called Wager Talk Extra, where all these added board type sports are covered and analyzed each and every day. So you can get all the information you're looking for, wagertalk.com, if you're interested in selection packages. My Super Bowl plays, additional ones to what I've talked to are up and available, including my 5% blue chip, which I haven't released here on this show. So you can go over there and get that, wagertalk.com. NBA college hoops I talked about as being pretty strong to start the season. I'm part of a package deal over there with Marco D'Angelo. The two of us have been doing really, really well. As far as tonight, Ski, we talked about a lot of games. I think we liked a couple. We were indecisive on a few, but maybe could get pushed in a certain direction. I'm going to go to even though Luka's back out, I'm going to go back to that Dallas-Sacramento game because this is where I handicapped it this morning 5 hours ago without Luka. And looking at the Sacramento home trends is how they go way over this number. They get the 240 plus at home as a home favorite, as a favorite in general. So I like Sacramento over. And in addition to that, I'll risk it. I'll leave you one more. I don't know why Houston, Miami has dropped all the way to 219.5, but I just don't agree. I could be wrong, but I'm going to try Houston, Miami up and over that 219.5 just based on Houston's poor defense and their, offense, which has been really, really good as of late.
All right, good stuff there. I agree with you on that play too. I probably might get there too by the end of the day. And I think we both agreed on that Houston plus 12 as well. So for me, I'm gonna leave you guys with the bets that I've actually placed so far today. I'm likely to place more bets, but I'm gonna give you what I got so far. And if you've watched the show, you probably can tell which ones I feel stronger about as far as the other leans that I had. But we'll go Knicks plus the 6.5 points. We'll go Knicks and Sixers under 223. We'll go Boston and Charlotte under 226, and we'll go Charlotte team total under 107.5. 4 plays from me, a couple plays from Rob. We appreciate everybody tuning in and watching the show. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button. If you want to know when we're back on, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and you'll get a notification. We also appreciate everybody sharing in the chat. There's a lot of people sharing their own plays, and it didn't go unnoticed. You guys are pretty sharp as well. And let's hope we all cash. Hope everybody has a good weekend. Good luck on your Super Bowl action. And we will be back Tuesday, Wednesday. It's been one of those days. And again, obviously next Friday. So appreciate you guys. And check out the rest of our work at wagertalk.com. Have a good weekend. We'll catch you guys later.